To the thousands of students and commuters who pass it every day on Bristol's College Green, this marble statue of Queen Victoria is just a regular piece of civic history. At most, it's a target for the occasional late-night student prank involving a traffic cone resting on the monarch's head. But behind this pristine block of Carrara marble lies a dark web of 19th century royal secrets. We're talking about an illicit royal affair, a sudden death, a massive cover-up by fire, and an unveiling hosted by a prince who was later accused of being Britain's most notorious serial killer. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive in and unpack the whole shebang.
You know, if the ultra-conservative citizens of Victorian Bristol had known the absolute truth about the hands that built and touched this monument, well, they would have been absolutely horrified. There is this wild contrast between what the public saw, pristine marble, a joyful Jubilee celebration, local civic pride, and the staggering reality hidden just out of sight. I mean, we're looking at a story involving burned evidence and literal serial killer conspiracies happening right under their noses.
So, our story officially begins in 1887. Bristolians were enthusiastically raising public funds to commission a monument for the Queen's Golden Jubilee, marking her 50 years on the throne. What's actually kind of funny about this local enthusiasm is that Victoria herself had almost zero relationship with Bristol. She had visited briefly as a child and would only ever return as queen for a few short hours in 1899. Still, despite the distance, the city wanted a grand tribute, and they set out to find the absolute best person to carve it.
They ended up hiring a man named Sir Joseph Edgar Boehme, who happened to be the Queen's favorite sculptor. Working meticulously from just a single photograph, Boehme carved the monarch's likeness out of a massive block of beautiful Italian marble. He was a total master of his craft. But behind the scenes of all his grand commissions, Boehme was harboring a massive, incredibly dangerous secret. It turns out the sculptor was allegedly engaged in a passionate, adulterous affair with none other than Queen Victoria's fourth daughter, Princess Louise. Louise was a fellow artist, and her official cover story was that she was taking sculpting lessons in Boehme's South Kensington studio. It was literally the perfect alibi. It allowed a high-profile member of the royal family to spend hours alone behind closed doors with a married artist without instantly setting off public alarm bells.
But then, things take a very sudden, highly suspicious turn. In 1890, just 2 years after his Bristol masterpiece was unveiled, Boehme died of a heart attack right there in his studio. And get this, the only witness in the room with him was Princess Louise. Within days of his death, every single one of Boehme's private letters and personal papers was completely incinerated. Rumors exploded across high society that the royal family had ordered the fire themselves to permanently erase any written proof of the illicit relationship.
Okay, so the scandal didn't just stay hidden in the sculptor's studio. It actually spilled right out into the public square on the very day the statue was revealed. On July 25, 1888, the citizens of Bristol braved a torrential downpour to welcome the guest of honor sent to officially unveil the monument. But, as you'll see, the storm coming from the sky was absolutely nothing compared to the storm surrounding this particular royal guest.
That guest of honor was Prince Albert Victor, the Duke of Clarence, though his family affectionately called him Eddie. As the eldest son of the Prince of Wales, he was the man destined to one day be the King of England. But history has not been kind to Prince Eddie. Contemporary accounts described him as spectacularly dim-witted, and he lived a voracious, totally chaotic personal life. He was deeply implicated in the infamous Cleveland Street scandal, which uncovered an illegal upper-class homosexual brothel frequented by British aristocrats. That was a massive crime at the time, and the government went to extreme, unprecedented lengths to cover it up and protect the heir.
Eddie's scandalous reputation was so severe, and the government's secrecy was so intense, that decades later it spawned an even darker, honestly bizarre theory. This ties right back to the exact era of that rainy Bristol unveiling. Based on his erratic behavior and the whispers of his secret life, who do you think conspiracy theorists believed Prince Eddie really was? They accused him of being Jack the Ripper. No joke, conspiracy theorists genuinely claimed that the future King of England was actually Britain's most notorious serial killer, stalking the streets of Whitechapel right around the time he was standing in the rain unveiling the Bristol Monument. Now, to be absolutely clear, modern historians have completely debunked this theory. They've proven definitively that Prince Eddie was far from London during the murders, but the fact that people were even willing to believe the future king was a serial killer, that tells you everything you need to know. The sheer volume of rumors just permanently ruined his legacy. Ultimately, the British monarchy dodged a major bullet. Eddie would never become king. He died suddenly of pneumonia when he was just 28 years old. His premature death violently shifted the crown's trajectory to his younger brother, who stepped up and eventually became King George V, completely changing the course of 20th century British royal history.
As for Queen Victoria's marble likeness, well, its physical journey in Bristol proved to be just as restless as her family's hidden history. After an illicit affair by its sculptor and an unveiling by a scandal-ridden prince, you'd think the statue would just get to sit quietly, right? Actually, scratch that, the drama was far from over.
In 1950, the statue was actually removed entirely from College Green. She was banished to Redcliffe Wharf, spending 3 long years sitting in exile while city planners endlessly argued over what to do with her. It wasn't until 1953 that intense public demand finally forced the city to bring her back to the spot where she sits today. So the next time you walk past College Green and you see a traffic cone resting on the Queen's head, just remember, that is easily the least interesting thing to ever happen to this monument. When you really grasp the affairs, the burned letters, the royal scandals, and the exile, a plastic cone is literally nothing. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other dark, forgotten secrets are hiding right in plain sight behind the boring civic monuments in your own city?